Salvete, welcome to this video lesson on chapter 24, section 2, and we are starting here at line 52. Sira then says, Yam narabo tibi omnia quae facta sunt. Now I will tell you, notice the bo, be, boo, future of narabo. Now I will tell you all the things, omnia, quae facta sunt, which have happened, which have been done. Frater tuus hodie sine comite in ludum iit. Your brother, frater tuus, today went to school, hodie iit in ludum, without a companion, sine comite. All right, and of course that's because Medus has run away. Quintus then replies, Non medus eum comitatus est? Didn't Medus accompany him? And notice this verb comitare. Comitare, it's comitor, comitare, comitatus sum. It is a deponent verb. That is, it's one of these verbs that looks passive but translates active. So thus notice the two-word perfect passive form, comitatus est. And do also notice that comitor, the verb, is related to the noun comes comitus, which means a companion. So essentially the verb means to act as a companion and thus to accompany. So Quintus says, didn't Medus accompany him? And Sira replies in 55, Medus hedi domo fugit. Medus yesterday ran away from home. Puto quia amicam suam, quae Romae habitat, videre cupiuit. I think, Puto, because he wanted to see, quia cupiuit videre, his girlfriend, who lives at Rome, quae Romae habitat. All right, Quintus then says, Quomodo medus, qui vix unquam Romae fuit, puellam Romanum noscere potuit. Quomodo, how or in what way? How did Medus, or how was Medus able, rather, potuit, to come to know, noscere, to get to know, we might say, a Roman girl. And notice that puella, we usually translate it as girl, but can also mean a young woman. Puer and puella can imply to people in their teens or even their 20s at times. How was Medus able to get to know a Roman girl, qui vix unquam Romae fuit, who was scarcely ever at Rome? Medus, who was scarcely ever at Rome. And I can tell that refers to Medus because the qui is masculine, and of course the qui clause follows directly after Medus. So making that in better English word order, how was Medus, who was barely ever at Rome, able to get to know a Roman girl? All right, and then in line 59, Sura then says, Nescio comodo, I don't know how, said certo scio, but I know for certain, eum aliquam feminam noisse, that he knew some woman, nam saepe de ea locutus est, for he often spoke about her. And notice locutus est is from locor, it's another of these deponent verbs, is in a two-word perfect passive form, but we're just translating it active, for he often spoke, or he often has spoken, de ea, about her. Nihil difficile est amanti. Nothing is hard, nothing is difficult for a lover. Amanti is from the present participle of amo, so it literally means for a loving person, but we can just change that into lover as a noun in English. So nothing is difficult for a lover, ut aiunt, as they say. Now, aiunt, like inquiunt, is a synonym of dicunt, right? These verbs, inquam and io, which means, both of them mean I say, are defective verbs. They only appear in a few forms, like iet and aiunt, which we see here. Okay, 62. Medus igitur, hodie marcum comitare non potuit. Medus, therefore, was not able, non potuit, to accompany Marcus today. Nuper Marcus solus regit. Recently Marcus returned alone, solus. Sed pater filium suum rediuntum, vix cognovit. But the father, or his father, we might say, pater, scarcely recognized him, vix cognovit. Filium suum rediuntum, his son returning. So if I put all that together in a better English form, but his father scarcely recognized his son returning. Neque eum osculatus est, nor did he kiss him. Okay, now notice osculatus est is another of these deponent verbs in the two-word perfect passive form, but we translate it active. It's, of course, osculor, osculare, the verb, means to kiss, and it's coming from the noun root of osculum, which is one of the words for kiss in Latin, osculum, suavium, and bastium. Okay, nor did he kiss him, ut solet, as he's used to do, as he's accustomed to do. Nam Marcus non modo humidus erat, for Marcus not only was humidus, wet, quod per imbrem ambulaurat, because he had walked, notice ambulaverat, ERA pluperfect, because he had walked per imbrem, through the rain, sed etiam sordidus, but he was also dirty, atque cruentus, and bloody, quod humi jacuerat, because he had lain, notice again a pluperfect jacuerat, on the ground, humi, et a sexto pulsatus erat, and he had been beaten up by Sextus. So again we have a pluperfect, pulsatus erat, but this time it's the two-word pluperfect passive form. And he had been beaten by Sextus. Okay. Puri enim, for the boys, in via pugnaverant, had fought on the road or in the street. Primum Marcum pulsaverat Sextus. First, Sextus had punched or beaten Marcus. And do note here the word order is the opposite of English. In English, we are an SVO language, subject, verb, object, whereas Latin does not matter that much, but it certainly likes to put the verb at the end of clauses, and it can either put the subject or the object first. It's about 50-50 either one. But what we have in this sentence is Marcum, the object, first, pulsaverat, the verb, in the middle, and Sextus at the end of the clause. Okay, so this is totally possible in Latin. It's not the most common word order, but it's quite frequently used. And there are stylistic reasons for that at time, for variation and so on. So the us ending on Sextus tells us it's the subject nominative. The on Marcum tells us it's the direct object. So it's the reverse word order from English. First, Sextus had beaten Marcus. Tum Marcus et Titus, then Marcus and Titus, sextum pulsaverant, had beaten up Sextus. Now that is a pretty normal Latin word order. Marcus et Titus, the subject, then sextum, the object, and then pulsaverant, the verb. That's probably the most common Latin word order for a clause, but again, it's almost as common to put object, subject, and verb. And you can put the verb in the middle like we had in the last clause as well. Hoc audito, with this heard, ablative absolute. And essentially that means when this was heard, right? Dominus Marcum severe reprehendit. The master, which of course means Julius, severely scolded Marcus. Quintus then says, Mater, quid dixit? Mother, what did she say? And this is like, what about mother? What did she say about this, right? So the way the word order of that works out, kind of changes the flavor from if we just said quid mater dixit, what did mother say? All right, Sierra then says, Mater tua non aderat, your mother was not present. Sed Paulo post intravit, but a little bit later, a little bit afterwards, she entered. Tunc Marcus jam lautus erat, then Marcus had already been washed, or we might say had washed himself, Lavo lavare, the base verb for wash here, it's related to laundry and lavatory in English. Um, but when you use this verb in the passive, a lot of times it means you wash yourself. So then Marcus had already washed up. He had already washed himself. Et vestem mutaurat, and he had and he had changed his clothes or his clothing. Vestem. Domina eum sordidum atque cruentum non vidit. The mistress, Domina, did not see, non vidit, him dirty and bloody. Okay? Marcus vero, but Marcus, se bonum disciplum fuisse dixit, said, dixit, that he was a good student. Se fuisse bonum disciplum. Et si illudo dormiverat, even if he had slept at school, nec magistrum recitantem audiverat, and had not heard his teacher reading out loud, or had not listened to his teacher reading out loud, perhaps a better way to take that. Ceterum, in hacere, but in this thing, is non peor fuerat ceteris, he had not been worse than the others, than the rest, and of course that means the rest of the students. Nam omnes dormiverant, for they all had slept. Postremo, at last, litteras pulchras qua sextus scripserat, matre ostendit. So at last he showed, ostendit, the beautiful letters, litteras pulchras, which Sextus had written, scripserat, another pluperfect, to his mother, matri, dative case. Atque dixit, and he said, and again this is Marcus speaking, se ipsum eias littera scriptisse, that he himself, se ipsum, had written those letters. Tam turpiter, frater tuus mentitus est. Now mentior, mentire, is to lie. Another of these deponent verbs, so mentitus est is the two-word perfect passive form, but we translate it active. So basically, so disgracefully, turpiter, your brother lied. Quintus says, Quomodo skis, how do you know Marcum mentitum esse, that Marcus lied, et eas litteras a sextos scriptas esse, and that those letters were written by Sextus? And Syrah explains, Quia nomen sexti in tabella scriptum erat, because the name of Sextus had been written, pluperfect passive scriptum erat, on the tablet, tabella. Et Paulo post, and a little bit later, tabellarius advenit, a messenger arrived. Quintus says, Nu per aliquim januam pulsare, et canem valde latrare audivi. I recently heard someone knocking on the door and a dog barking very much, valde. Tum subito, then suddenly, magna voce clamavit aliquis. Someone shouted, aliquis clamavit, in a loud voice, magna voce. Quid nam tantus ille tumultus significavit? What in the world did such a great tumult as that signify? We could also say uproar, just noise for tumultus here. And Syrah says, Tabularius clamavit, the messenger shouted, quod canem veritus est, or veritus est, rather, because he feared the dog. Okay, now veritus est is from verior, vereri, and that's another deponent verb. So again, two-word perfect passive, veritus est, but we translate it active. It's a passive form translated active, because he feared the dog. Nec sine causa, and not without reason, nam canis eum memordit, for the dog bit him. Now, memordit is one of these wonderful reduplicated perfect forms. It comes from mordeo, mordere, and then when you get to the third principal part, it's memordi, so the mo reduplicates, that is to say, you see it twice at the beginning of the word. That's one thing that you occasionally get in perfect tenses in Latin. Another example would be papulet, we sometimes get for pillow. Um, Occasionally in archaic forms, you might get tatuli instead of tuli for the third principal part of pharaoh. But there are others as well. Kakiti is perhaps one of the most common ones. Kado, cautery, to fall, and then kakiti, third principal part. All right, well, back to our text in line 89. So Eum mordit, bit him. Et vestimeus skidit, and rent or perhaps tore his clothing. And I think that's in reference to the cape, right? If you remember that from the story. Is canis, that dog, lupo ferocior est, is more ferocious than a wolf. Quintus then says, Ego canem janitores non vereor. I do not fear the dog of the doorkeeper, janitores. Neque umquam ab eo morsusum, nor have I ever been bitten by him. And Sira says, Id non miror, I'm not surprised at that. Nam canis saepisime te vidit, for the dog has seen you very often. Saepisime, superlative adverb there. Canis te novit, the dog knows you. Ignorat illum, he does not know him, meaning the messenger. Quintus then says, Canis me non moro novit, the dog not only knows me, sed etiam deligit, but also loves me. Nam multa ei dosa dedi, for I have given, dedi, him, ei, many bones, multa osa. Et saepecumeo luci, and I have often played with him. Ceterum, quid atulit tabularius, but what did the messenger bring? And Sira replies, Epistulam atulit, he brought a letter, in qua magister scripserat, in which the teacher had written, Marcum discipulum pigerrimum fuisse, that Marcus was the laziest student, atque foide et prave scripsisse, and that he wrote uglily, foide, or in an ugly way, and incorrectly or wrongly, prave. To Marcus, then Marcus, qui primo omnia negaverat, who at first had denied all, se mentitum esse falsus est, confessed, falsus est, and notice that falsus est is another of these two-word perfect passives from a deponent verb, fateor, fateri, which means to confess or to fess up, to admit, you could also say. So falsus est, he confessed, se mentitum esse, that he lied, or that he had lied specifically. All right, Quintus then replies to her, Profecto verbera meruit, he absolutely deserved whippings. Or you could say earned whippings. And then Sira replies, Magister eum jam bis verberaverat. The teacher had already, jam, whipped him twice, verberaverat bis. Nec igitur, nor therefore, pater eum de nuo verberare voluit, did your father want, voluit, to whip him, verberare eum, again, or anew, de nuo. Sed in cubiculum inclusit, but he shut him into his bedroom. Ceterum, facile tibi est fratrim tuum reprehendere, but, ceterum, it is easy for you, facile est tibi, to reprove, to scold, reprehendere, your brother, fratrum tuum, dum ipse hic in moli lectulo cubas, while you yourself lie, cubas, here in the soft little bed, in moli lectulo. Tune ipse simper bonus discipulus es, are you yourself always a good student? And Quintus says, Melior sum fratre meo, I am better than my brother. All right. And so Melior, better, just Remember that that is a comparative of bonus, meaning good. Just like in English, we say good. We don't say good or goodest. We say good, better, best. So in Latin, you have irregular comparison here. You go bonus or bona, bonum, and then you get melior, melius for the comparative better, and you get optimus, optima, optimum for the best, the superlative form. So I am better. And when you say better with a comparative adjective, you need comparative form to have, you know, the way of comparing it with another. So there are two ways of doing that. One is the quam, and then you keep the same case. So he could have said melior sum quam frater meus, but instead he did melior sum fratre meo. Fratre meo being in the ablative. This is what's called the ablative of comparison, and essentially all it means is the ablative tells us that we can say than. I am better than my brother. Heri laudato sum. Yesterday I was praised, quia pulchre scripseram, because I had written beautifully, et recitavoram, and I had read aloud. Beautifully understood again, all right? I had written and had read beautifully. Pulchre. And then Sarah then replies to him, Tu ne solus pulchre scripseras et recitavoras. You alone had written and had read out loud beautifully. So basically, she's asking, you are the only student that did this? And Quintus says, Imo omnes praeter marcum laudati sumus. No, no, no. Imo, right? Imo is a strong negation of what somebody's just stated. No way. All of us, omnes, we all, were praised, laudati sumus, except for Marcus, praeter marcum. So praeter, you translate except for, besides, something like that. So except for Marcus, we were all praised. Quod pulchre scripseramus et recitaveramus, because we had written and had read out loud beautifully, pulchre. And Sarah says, Si vos laudati estis, if you all were praised, quod pulchrius scripseratus et recitaveratis quam Marcus, because you had written, scripseratus, and had read out loud, recitaveratus, more beautifully, pulchrius, notice the ius makes that comparative, than Marcus, quam Marcus. None ille tam recte scripserat quam vos? Didn't he write so correctly as you all, or just as correctly as you all? Ego Marcum bene novi. I know Marcus well. Nec puto eum vobis stultiorem esse. And I do not think that he is stupider than you all. All right, and so the vobis is referring to not only Quintus, but the other students as well, Titus and Sextus. So how does Quintus reply to this? He says, At certe pigrior est nobis, but he's certainly lazier than us. Okay, so he might not be stupider, but he doesn't use his brain in the same kind of trustworthy way to try to get the work actually done. He just lazes his way out of everything. All right, well, we come to the end here. So I think we've seen some comparisons, right? Both with the quam and with the ablative, like the vobis here at the end is another example of the ablative of comparison. So we say than y'all, than you all. We have seen lots of pluperfects here, and with the ERA, like recitavaram, I had read out loud. And we saw some pluperfect passives and the two-word forms with erat. And we also saw a lot of our deponent verbs, right? The verbs that look passive, but we translate active. So I hope you learned a few things there. Walete.